Hello, everybody, and welcome to or back to the Dennis Prager Show. One of my favorite people is in the studio because by now I think you know who my favorite people are generally. People who have good values and fight. Fighting is not the norm among people with good values. Something we ought to talk about, actually. David Horowitz, who basically needs no introduction, is the author of many books, speaks constantly around the country, president of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and founder of the online news magazine, frontpagemag.com. By the way, we just had your Daniel Greenfield on.
Daniel's quite brilliant.
He is. He's great. That's absolutely right.
I never understood, Dennis, how Orthodox Jews do all these amazing things because they have so many obligations, religious. Like, where do they find time? Where does he find time?
That's such a great point. The answer was said to me many, many years ago by a person who did a lot of things. And I said to him, how do you do all that? And he said, you know what, Dennis, what I found in life, only the busy find time to do anything.
That is really good.
Isn't it?
That's so true.
It was a great line, and obviously it stayed with me. And it turns out to be true. Because whenever you want something done, you end up asking a person who is already doing a lot. Not the guy who's been watching 6 hours of TV.
That's right.
So it's an amazing thing. David Horowitz has a series of books out. The Black Book of the American Left. Volume 8 is now out. And I'm telling you, it sounds very obviously difficult. I'm going to read 8 volumes. But he writes so interestingly, and it's so chock-filled with information. Or should I say chock-full of information? Full, because...
Chock-full of nuts?
Chock-full of nuts, exactly, yes. David Horowitz's book, it's up at our website. The latest is, Volume 8 is The Left in the University, which is I think that's the smoking gun. When I talk to people... And they say, why are you so anti-left? And I say, look at the university. That's the first answer I give. Is that a legit approach?
Absolutely. I mean, if we don't do something or something isn't done about what they have done to the educational system, this country is gone.
Yes.
Everything that we see today, I mean, whatever you complain about, if it's the media, it's the university and the J schools. If it's the fake judiciary that makes up the law, it's the law schools. What my book shows, I mean, to just do it in a nutshell, is it's really about what happened over a 50-year period. This is not something that happened overnight, what we see on the campuses today. First, they purged conservatives from the faculties, and they did it by getting control of the hiring committees and just hiring leftists. Then they purged the reading lists, all the required readings, all the conservative books. So a young person going through college can go through 4 years of college, never encounter a conservative adult, and never read a book by a conservative required who hasn't been dead for 100 or 200 years. Then they purge conservative ideas from the curriculum. A conservative can't get a job in women's studies because it's not about study of women. It's about training in Marxist feminism. That's what it's about. All these studies programs are like that. And what they have done is they've reverted the university system to its 19th century condition. Universities started out in the 19th century, they were all religious institutions. Their purpose, they were financed by religious denominations, and their purpose was to train ministers, priests, and probably there was, I don't know how old the Hebrew University is, but probably that too. So their mission was to instill a doctrine. At the beginning of the 20th century and the end of the 19th, an institution, they were transformed into what's generally referred to as the modern research university, put them on a scientific basis. So religion then became part of the religious department, but the rest of the school was based on scientific method. That is, you have a controversy, you get all the sides, and you try to figure out who might be right. Today's universities are now doctrinal institutions. And that's why I mean, people are shocked when they see that you have students shutting down a dissent. I mean, I understand you were just at the University of Wyoming, and they have totally screwed the kids who invited you because they don't want. Well, if you're in a modern research university, then dissent is dissent, and you want to hear what the dissenting hypothesis is, and put the evidence in front of it. If you're in a religious institution, dissent is heresy, and heretics get burned at the stake, or you shut them down. It's a heresy. So what is the religion that our schools teach now? Religion is referred to generally as identity politics, but it's really a form. It's cultural Marxism. It's taking Marx's completely false and incredibly destructive model of society as divided between oppressor and oppressed. But he did it on a class basis and transforming that into race, gender, sex, ethnicity, and so forth. Very, very pernicious.
So, right. I didn't interrupt once, A, because I'm fascinated, B, because it makes perfect sense. In other words, what you're saying is they're essentially Marxist seminaries.
Exactly,
They were
but
seminaries.
they're worse than Marx because they're racist. Identity politics is racist when you think about it for a second.
Yes, I posed this question in San Francisco this weekend at the debate I had with a Jewish leftist from J Street, this group called J Street. And I asked him, I said, what do you think of all black dorms and black graduations at Harvard or wherever, all of these universities? And he didn't directly answer it, but that's not the point. The point is your racism charge is fully accurate. So I want to ask you something. I am very curious. I don't know what your answer will be. Sometimes I know what you'll answer. Sometimes I don't. I have found it effective morally and in terms of argumentation to make a distinction between liberal and left. Do you?
Well, the only liberals in this country today are called conservative.
Agreed, except for Alan Dershowitz.
Except for Alan.
Right.
And we give Alan a lot of latitude because he's a warrior against this.
Against the left. Yes.
No.
So we agree.
I mean, there was a liberalism once.
That's correct. So I said to this audience, half of whom were San Francisco liberals, which is almost redundant, or San Francisco leftists. So I said, if you think that segregation is good, that I grew up believing that was what a Southern racist believed, but now that is what the left believes.
But that's exactly right. The left is racist. I mean, you have... just take the phrase, I don't know if I've discussed this on your program, but people of color. First of all, it's not English. I mean, we don't say here's a box of crayons of color, do we? It's totally ideological. And what's the purpose of this ideological construct, people of color? Because that's what identity politics is about. First of all, people of color, they're not a group. They don't have a common interest. If they do, tell that to the Rwandans, where the Hutus committed a genocide against the Tutsis. Tell it to the, the Pakistanis and the Indians who are at each other's throats. And
or tell it to Stalin, who murdered 20 million Russians.
Exactly. So there is no people of color. What's its purpose? Well, the whole world is people of color, except for one group. And that group is the oppressor group and the evil one, and that's white people. It's a totally racist ideology. The American idea is we judge people on the basis of their character, on merits. The Constitution doesn't have the word black or white, female, actually, or male in it, because the founders believed that these rights, these universal rights, were granted by a creator to all his children, which means regardless of race, color, or creed. Anyway.
All right. We'll be back in a moment. David Horowitz, the inimitable one, is in the studio with me, and Volume 8 of his Black Book of the American Left is out. It is The Left in the University. It's compelling, and it is up at DennisPrager.com. We'll be back in a moment. You are listening to The Dennis Prager Show. They do. That's what they do. They fight for good. I'm a big fan of the Salvation Army, and a lot of you are too. By the way, I will tell you this. I know this as a fact, and I've discussed this on the Happiness Hour. You know, I don't believe that human nature is basically good. It's one of the fundamental beliefs of my life. Flawed human nature. If you don't understand that, then there's no way of making a better world. But having said that, there is evidence that there is goodness in human nature too, and I'll give you an example. Most people feel good about themselves and feel happier after they've done something good. So I just want you to know there is evidence for goodness in human nature, not just garbage. And I mention this because if you do give to the Salvation Army now, you'll be happier the moment you do it. I promise you. The tough thing is to get to do it. But there's a banner up at my website, or just go to Team Prager, TEAM, Prager.org. I'm speaking with a fighter for good stuff. I got a great emotional question to ask you. This is great. I have no idea what you're going to answer, but I mentioned this to my audience the last hour, and I'm curious how you will react. There's no right answer to this, okay? Not that I have to tell David Horowitz to worry about what to say, but nevertheless, there is none. I'm just curious this is purely emotional, okay? Not intellectual, not moral, emotional. Right. What brings you more joy, when the bad are punished or the good rewarded?
Oh, when the good are rewarded.
Interesting. I said when the bad are punished. I think
because I don't expect the bad to be punished.
Oh, okay, that's so. So. Of course they're not.
Turn on your TV.
We know that. All right, so imagine there's an afterlife. All right, imagine there's an afterlife. So,
although I would get a big kick out of seeing Hillary put in jail.
Oh, okay. That we really got.
And Holder and Lynch and Comey and Mueller. Hey, anyway.
No. That's a subject unto itself. I talked to the great Kimberly Strassel about that last hour. But anyway, all right. I was just curious on an emotional basis. David Horowitz has written now. This is Volume 8 that's just come out.
I would like to see Sarah Huckabee get an honor. She is a courageous.
She is. God bless her. That's entirely right.
You know, and her.
By the way,
attackers like Chelsea Handler.
Yes, that's right.
She's a drunken slut. And her life is her own punishment. That's
okay. I don't know anything about her, so I won't comment. That's not an area of I know much about. I should know more popular culture, but I don't. The latest book by David Horowitz is Volume 8, believe it or not, but they're all utterly readable. They're not only readable because he writes interestingly, they're readable because it's chock full of evidence. It is not just spouting out. It is every page has. And here's my point. This is the way I love to write as well. Here's my point. Here's my evidence. Here's my example. The latest book is The Left in the University. All right. So wait. So I know you're dying to talk, and I love when you talk, but I just want to focus in on something for a moment. You made. I like to repeat certain critical points that are made because it's the only way any of us can remember anything is repetition. So it's a brilliant point you made. The university started out in America as theological institutions, and they are resuming being, if not theological, ideological institutions. And since leftism, you and I both believe, is a religion, it's a different religion now. It was originally Protestantism, largely Protestant Christianity, and now it is leftism.
Cultural Marxism.
But I'll bet you, I don't know this for a fact, but I'll bet that in 1793, you were more capable of reading dissent at a Christian-based Princeton, that was known then as the City College or the College of New Jersey, but than today reading dissenting material at Princeton or Yale or wherever you want to mention.
Probable. It's probable.
Because they entertain the fact there are atheists. Let's read them.
There's a difference in that the doctrine that you would have learned at Princeton was about, what organizes the world. It wasn't to tell you that you can have this position politically on this or this position.
That's a good point. That's right. It
wasn't about this world.
No.
The religious part.
Yes.
Whereas this is a religion. It's a totalitarian religion.
Right.
It's like Islam. Really, it's about everything that you do. You were talking before about gender of children. I mean, everything comes under this purview, and it's not like you can have a dissenting view, because, as I said, that's a heresy, and they shut you down. I mean, I've been invited twice to Berkeley in the last year and never got to go because of the left.
What happened?
Well, they told me, I actually had a conversation with the vice chancellor and the chief of police, and they told me I'd have to speak at 1, which is when afternoon classes start, instead of at 5 after they're over. I'd have to speak a mile away from the campus. They had a little facility. And then the police chief said, and you can announce the speech, but you can't tell its location. I said, you got to be kidding me, But that's what it was. And then they imposed all these charges, like $8,000 on the kids, and the kids said, it's just too hard for us. Nobody's going to come a mile away, and that was that.
I did not know this. It's
going on.
Who invited you?
College Republicans. It was an official campus group.
If a poll were done at Berkeley, conducted at Berkeley, should we allow conservative Republican speakers on campus? What do you think the results would be? Not including professors.
Oh, I think it would be very bad.
You do?
Oh, absolutely.
Did you see the Ami Horowitz video?
Yeah, he's great.
He is great.
Waving the ISIS flag and waving the Israeli flag.
No,
the American flag.
Yeah, the American flag this time, yeah.
It's terrible.
He was cursed at waving the American flag.
Again, they're religious institutions in that they instill doctrines. They don't teach kids how to think. They tell them what to think.
We'll be back in a moment. The book by David Horowitz, The Black Book of the American Left. It is up at DennisPrager.com. All right, actually, that was last week's. Today, or 2 weeks ago, okay, today's video is on what's going to happen to your Social Security. It's really powerful stuff. Every Monday we come up with a new video. I'm Dennis Prager. That's PragerU. By the way, I'm looking at the calls here, and not the calls. Some of them are obviously from things I said earlier in the show. I'm not going to take this call because I don't want to embarrass the caller. I'll just say it's Jim in Cleveland, who should be embarrassed. This is what the screener writes. Where did you find in the Bible that there was a request for Christians to kill Jews? These are the moments where I think there is clearly a certain percentage of people who do not listen. Words come into their brain, and they don't actually form a sentence. My whole point was that there was nothing in the New Testament that says that. And I said that over and over and over against the man who was arguing that Christians were killing Jews, and they were in the Middle Ages. But I said, but there was nothing in the New Testament that tells them to do so. But there are injunctions in the Quran to kill the infidel.
Jews. And Jews, no, specifically Jews.
Specifically Jews and the infidel generally. So that's it. It's okay. Anyway, so Jim, you should send me an apology letter, and don't tell any of your friends how you mangled what I said. All right, back to my guest, David Horowitz, who really knows the left better than anyone that I know of. And I think I know the left really well, so that's the highest compliment I can pay. The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 8, The Left in the University. That's the latest issue. Now, let's go below the university. Let's go to high school and elementary school. Any thoughts on what's happening there?
Yeah, I think that the K-12 schools are in terrible trouble. We have a website called StopK12Indoctrination.org. Black Lives Matter is providing curricula in the Philadelphia schools. In San Diego schools, CARE, a Muslim Brotherhood operation, is providing curricula on Islam. There are so many. In fact, I was just at a high school, and I was very well received by the kids, so that gives me some hope. But, yeah, they had teachers crying when Trump was elected. In the Edina is a upper middle class suburb of Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. They had an assembly when Trump was elected. The teachers were all in tears. They're giving out a kid's book. It's for kindergartners and first graders. A is for activist. X is for Malcolm X. It just goes on, indoctrinating whatever. I forgot how old I was when I was maybe 5 and 6 year olds in leftist crap. It's very sinister. I think the K-12 is easier to fix, but it requires legislation that prevents teachers from advocating in a
what would
partisan way.
What would you tell a parent about sending their kid to a school now? What would you tell them?
Oh, you got to keep close watch on your kids. You find out what's going on in the school, what they're learning. You just have to be a much better parent. And for universities, if they're going into the sciences, they're going to be pretty much okay. There are no safe schools. I mean, I spoke at Reed. And by the way, in this book, The Left in the University, I mean, it's really a lot of dispatches from the war front that, when I go, I describe going to these schools and what I saw. And I engage in battles. If you think that there are decent people who are teaching, but they have no courage when it comes to standing up to this. All this stuff about safe places could be easily fixed if there were faculty at any of these universities who would invite Dennis Prager or David Horowitz or any other conservative to speak. That would end it.
A lot of things would end it.
They're behind it.
If students took over offices and were expelled from the university, that would end all student takeovers.
Oh yeah, but that's
offices.
something I asked when I was a radical in the '60s. I said, I didn't do it, but my friends are taking over, campuses, and why aren't they being expelled?
Yes, yes, exactly. That would do it. We'll be back in a moment. This year, PragerU has more than 600 million views. That's a very serious number. We're changing minds, which is what we have to do, or we lose not just America, but Western civilization. That's how big the issue is today. And the opponents of the West are overwhelmingly within the West. That's the amazing thing. No external threat can do to the West what is being done internally. Man who knows all about that is David Horowitz, the esteemed author and speaker. His latest work is now into Volume 8. Will there be more volumes after this?
One more.
And what will that be on?
March.
I'm sorry?
March.
March?
The spring. Then we're going to... This March. You said, when will the 9th volume be out?
No. I said when? I thought I said what?
What? It's called Ruling Ideas.
Okay, that's why I didn't understand.
It's about the American idea and the Marxist idea.
Okay, great. Okay. Oh, that's great. Well, we'll obviously have you on for that, too. It's so funny. I thought I said, what is it on? You thought I said, I don't know what is...
I thought you said when is it...
No, I may well have. I don't know. But that's why I go, the answer to the question "what" is rarely a date. So that's why I was so confused.
Well, I have the headphones on.
No. One of us, I have no idea. We could. It's all recorded. I'll figure it out. But anyway, Volume 8, which is just out, is The Left in the University. So let me go to a call here from Amanda in La Jolla, California. Hello, Amanda. David Horowitz and Dennis Prager here.
Yes, hi, Dennis. I have to say it's a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
I was listening to your guest speaking about what's going on in the schools in our country, and I have to say I'm the mother of 2 children who are attending an elite private school in our community, and they have been coming home from school, just terribly upset because they're being, they feel they're not able to verbalize their views, which are more conservative. They are amongst those students whose teachers cry after the election and are constantly being barraged by information about how the right is evil in subliminal messages, nevertheless receiving those messages.
Let me just go back to your first point. How old are your children?
These are middle school children.
Okay, so let me understand this. One of their teachers cried in class in front of the students?
Yes, correct. This is
Fire.
not just one teacher, but quite a few teachers. And wearing black because they were supposedly in mourning.
Wait, how many teachers wore black?
I don't know exactly, but I would say there were definitely over 2 or 3.
Right.
That I know of personally. That I
right.
Directly from my children.
But I'm still that is disgusting. But the crying is mind blowing. Was it a male or female teacher?
These were female teachers.
Right. It's an astonishing story. Can you imagine the opposite? I mean, this is David Horowitz. Thank you for that call, Amanda. David, I mention regularly that it would come as a shock to anyone on the left to know that we were as upset at the re-election of Barack Obama as they are at the election of Donald Trump. The difference is, why do they not know that? Because we don't act it out.
Well, there is a difference. I remember when Obama was reelected, my first thought was a lot of people are going to be dead because of this election. I didn't realize it would be hundreds of thousands.
Talking about Iraq?
I'm talking about Iraq and Syria, yeah. The big difference is this, Dennis. These people are actually deluded into thinking that they're changing the world and making it into a humane, wonderful, social justice place. And when they see the enemy get elected, it's not just that there's going to be more of a mess, as the normal human mess, a little worse, a lot worse, but it's thwarting their project of redemption. Mm-hmm. I mean, as you know, from seeing them as it's a religious sect is what it is. It's really terrible. Look, the elite private schools, they're the worst.
The worst. And conservatives.
And why don't the parents get together and get those teachers fired?
All right. Or take their kids out. It is better that your kid go to a mediocre school than to go to an elite school that perverts their values. Folks, it's so obvious to me that I never debated this issue. But people, even conservatives, are caught up in, I got to get my kid the best education, quote unquote, and it's not the best education, folks. It's the most prestigious, but it's not the best. The best education is probably available through homeschooling, to be perfectly honest. And then they wonder why their kid resents them.
Send your kids up to PragerU.
Yes.
I mean, this is a great institution you built, Dennis, and it's, part of. I think we're pessimists and optimists by genetics or something. Mm-hmm. But part of my optimism is seeing a young people, young conservatives. Now, these kids are on the firing line. I get rejected to come to Berkeley to speak, but these kids invited me. So they have to stay there.
That's right. That's right.
And
Very
take
good
the
point.
heat.
Yep.
And when I began 30 years ago visiting college campuses and speaking, the conservative kids were like mice. It's all changed now.
Bless you. That's a great point. David Horowitz, God bless you with many healthy years. That's all I can say. We need you. The Black Book of the American Left, Volume 8, The Left in the University. And it sounds intimidating, 8 volumes. I totally understand. Once you start reading, you will not find it intimidating. The book is up at DennisPrager.com. Thank you, David Horowitz. We'll be back in a moment. All right, my friends, give to the Salvation Army, and let me tell you, with the April 2nd's approaching, with the greatest mission of my life, the greatest project of my life, the Rational Bible, coming out April 2nd. You can pre-order it at Amazon. See you tomorrow. Dum-tiddy-da-da. Hello, everybody. I'm Dennis Prager. I didn't like the way I said that. It sounded a little almost like I was bragging. I'm Dennis Prager. I didn't like that at all. I'm Dennis Prager. Much better. You got to monitor yourself. There's a great Hebrew phrase, let your ears hear what your mouth says. Do you know that I memorized every aphorism taught to me in a religious school, and they have all shaped my life? I should do that one day. I think that'll be a great Ultimate Issues Hour. The aphorisms that changed my life. And their kids don't have aphorisms today, do they? They don't even know what it means. Forget the word aphorism. Sayings. They don't have sayings in their lives. There's an app for that. Yeah, that's very funny. I know. Hey, Dinesh D'Souza, I see your name on the board and I light up. What do you think of that?
I'm excited, Dennis. It's always fun to be on the show.
Only because you never know what I'm going to ask. You know, as they say in India, what curveball I'll throw.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, by the way, talking about that, do you understand how, what is that sport again that in the whole British world loves?
Well, do you mean cricket?
Yeah. Do you understand cricket?
Oh, yes. I understand it very well. And for my young life, I was a huge fan.
All right.
And perhaps probably even an aspiring young professional cricket player when I was when I was a young boy.
I am so happy I asked. You see that? How many people know that? So anyway, look, folks, Dinesh D'Souza is in the rarefied atmosphere of not needing an introduction. He is a filmmaker, best-selling author, major thinker. I think that's the best I could say because he really is. So he has the latest Prager University course out. And we were just speaking, Alan Estrin and myself, that this is the sort of course you should watch 3 times. It's totally clear. You watch it once, you get the whole point, but it's worth memorizing. It's that good. Is fascism right or left? Is fascism right or left? And this is the facts, ma'am. This is not theory. This is not an attack. It is simply the facts, ma'am. Is fascism right or left? It is the latest PragerU video. Every one of your kids should see this. All of your kids should see all of our videos, but this one has magnificent significance. So congratulations, Dinesh, on a great video.
Thank you so much. It's I thought it was one way to look at this because there's such a fog of misinformation about fascism, and it's not just because of Trump. The misinformation about fascism goes right back to World War II. The big lie, if you will, has been around now for 75 years that sort of pegs the fascist tail on the Republican elephant. And so in the video, I explore the issue by saying, okay, look, we can always discover the core tenets of an ideology by looking at its leading thinker. And with fascism, we have a kind of mystery, because we all know the leading thinker of capitalism is Adam Smith, and we all know the leading thinker of Marxism is Karl Marx, but who is the leading thinker of fascism? And it's very instructive that we don't know. It's not obvious. Most educated people couldn't say. And as the video exposes, there's a reason for that the left has actually buried this man, Giovanni Gentile, the true Mussolini called him the leading thinker of fascism. And of course, Mussolini established the world's first fascist regime in Italy in the 1920s. So it's very instructive to know what this man thinks and how he thinks, and how his mind works and where he comes from. And I think at the end of it, the viewer becomes convinced definitively that fascism can only be a phenomenon of the left.
If we weren't saturated in left-wing media, people would know all of these things, but they have so successfully labeled fascism right-wing and even racism. I ask my audiences all the time, and I'd like you to comment on this, and I say, folks, who is for black dorms? Who is for racially segregated dorms today, left or right? Who is for racially segregated graduation exercises at Harvard, the right or the left? And we are pinned with the racist label.
It's very strange, because white nationalism, the phenomenon of essentially mobilizing racial sentiment, this was invented by the progressive Democrats in the early 20th century, and their weapon of choice was white solidarity. Now, for political and tactical reasons, they have moved from championing white solidarity to championing, you may say, minority solidarity, which is to say black solidarity, Latino solidarity, Asian American solidarity. Their computation is that there are more votes to be had there than in stoking the old white racial hatred. But if you think about it, the intellectual move is the same. It's not that they've changed their philosophy. They've merely changed the political ethnic group that they've chosen to bet on.
That was terrific. That was just terrific. That's exactly what's happened. There's more to be gained from racial solidarity of minorities than racial solidarity of whites, so they've switched. They're the ones who have a quote-unquote Southern strategy. That's the irony.
So, Dennis, again, you've put your finger on the key to it, because they act as if Lyndon Johnson, who was just a rabid racist in Texas in the 30s, fought against all the civil rights legislation that came up, helped FDR to block, for example, anti-lynching legislation. Think about this, blocking anti-lynching laws proposed by the Republicans. Now, this man is supposed to have undergone some magnificent conversion to make him a champion of the Civil Rights Act. But interestingly, all these Democrats who supposedly saw the light, we don't have a single account from any of them explaining how they converted, what made them convert. I mean, there's no Whittaker Chambers witness in which Whittaker Chambers, for example, described his agonizing transformation from being a communist to being an anti-communist. Where's the comparable record of these progressive Democrats seeing the light? There's none of it. And therefore, one much more easily thinks that what LBJ is a cunning, canny vote counter. He began to realize that things were changing in the South, and he had to make, if you will, a shrewd political move to in a sense, switch sides, not because he had a moral conversion, but for political gain.
Folks, the video is up as of Monday, and we already have 1.5 million views. Dinesh D'Souza is great. Is fascism right or left? Dinesh, thank you. Obviously, I look forward to working with you continuously.
Thanks, Dennis.
Right. Don't forget, right now, go to the banner and give to the Salvation Army, the banner at my website, DennisPrager.com. Thank you.
He's a fascist. For decades, this has been a favorite smear of the left aimed at those on the right. Every Republican president, for that matter, virtually every Republican, since the 1970s has been called a fascist, now more than ever. This label is based on the idea that fascism is a phenomenon of the political right. The left says it is, and some self-styled white supremacists and neo-Nazis embrace the label. But are they correct? To answer this question, we have to ask what fascism really means. What is its underlying ideology? Where does it even come from? These are not easy questions to answer. We know the name of the philosopher of capitalism, Adam Smith. We know the name of the philosopher of Marxism, Karl Marx. But who's the philosopher of fascism? Yes, exactly. You don't know. Don't feel bad. Almost no one knows. This is not because he doesn't exist, but because historians, most of whom are on the political left, had to erase him from history in order to avoid confronting fascism's actual beliefs. So let me introduce him to you. His name is Giovanni Gentile. Born in 1875, he was one of the world's most influential philosophers in the first half of the 20th century. Gentile believed that there were two diametrically opposed types of democracy. One is liberal democracy, such as that of the United States, which Gentile dismisses as individualistic, too centered on liberty and personal rights, and therefore selfish. The other, the one Gentile recommends, is true democracy, in which individuals willingly subordinate themselves to the state. Like his philosophical mentor Karl Marx, Gentile wanted to create a community that resembles the family, a community where we are all in this together. It's easy to see the attraction of this idea. Indeed, it remains a common rhetorical theme of the left. For example, at the 1984 convention of the Democratic Party, the governor of New York, Mario Cuomo, likened America to an extended family, where, through the government, people all take care of each other. Nothing's changed. 30 years later, a slogan of the 2012 Democratic Party convention was, "The government is the only thing we all belong to." They might as well have been quoting Gentile. Now remember, Gentile was a man of the left. He was a committed socialist. For Gentile, fascism is a form of socialism, indeed, its most workable form. While the socialism of Marx mobilizes people on the basis of class, fascism mobilizes people by appealing to their national identity as well as their class. Fascists are socialists with a national identity. German fascists in the 1930s were called Nazis, basically a contraction of the term National Socialist. For Gentile, all private action should be oriented to serve society. There's no distinction between the private interest and the public interest. Correctly understood, the two are identical. And who is the administrative arm of society? It's none other than the state. Consequently, to submit to society is to submit to the state, not just in economic matters, but in all matters. Since everything is political, the state gets to tell everyone how to think and what to do. It was another Italian, Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy from 1922 to 1943, who turned Gentile's words into action. In his Dottrina del Fascismo, one of the doctrinal statements of early fascism, Mussolini wrote, "All is in the state, and nothing human exists or has value outside the state." He was merely paraphrasing Gentile. The Italian philosopher is now lost in obscurity, but his philosophy could not be more relevant because it closely parallels that of the modern left. Gentile's work speaks directly to progressives who champion the centralized state. Here in America, the left has vastly expanded state control over the private sector, from healthcare to banking, from education to energy. This state-directed capitalism is precisely what German and Italian fascists implemented in the 1930s. Leftists can't acknowledge their man Gentile because that would undermine their attempt to bind conservatism to fascism. Conservatism wants small government so that individual liberty can flourish. The left, like Gentile, wants the opposite, to place the resources of the individual and industry in the service of a centralized state. To acknowledge Gentile is to acknowledge that fascism bears a deep kinship to the ideology of today's left. So they will keep Gentile where they've got him, dead, buried, and forgotten. But we should remember, or the ghost of fascism will continue to haunt us. I'm Dinesh D'Souza for Prager University. Thank you for watching this video. To help keep these videos free, please make a tax-deductible donation. Click here.